Good morning, everyone. Welcome to What Sold. In this channel, all we do is show you what we've sold. Sometimes we'll tell you a little bit more about the item, give you some hints and some ideas if you're out there looking for things to sell. But otherwise, we're going to get right into it. Today's a special edition because it's a theme. It's all about jewelry. So if you're interested in jewelry to see what values are in real time right now, this is a video for you. Let's do it. First up today, we have this vintage a small lot of Crown Trifari jewelry. Now, Crown Trifari is one of those pretty well-known names of costume jewelry out there. I don't know exactly how old, maybe as early as the 30s, but I'm thinking, 40s, 50s and 60s is kind of a heyday. They were pumping out a good amount of stuff. And you can see from this lot, it's kind of all over the map as far as the styles. You've got these kind of, the white beaded one, that's kind of like a later, a little bit later, but then this is cool. It's like it almost looks like smoky topaz, although I don't know actually what the stone was. This is just a rhinestone that's made to look like a dark kind of an amber color, and then you can see kind of these whitish stones with those little ceramic beads in between there. That one was shaped like a turtle. Just a pendant, a couple of necklaces. This one for $18.50. If I had just put one of these up for sale by itself, I might have been able to get that if I waited long enough for the right buyer. But we bought a large jewelry collection. We're pumping through, we're trying to move this stuff to make room for everything else coming in. This is an example of a lot that we just sold, and this is kind of how I've been staging my jewelry lots lately, is using this or a similar older jewelry box. You can see it's nice solid wood, stained. It's got 3 different levels, and I basically lay out anywhere between 30 and 45 individual pieces. I would count a pair of earrings as one piece. But it could be anything. It could be rings, watches, bracelets, necklaces, brooches, what have you. Sometimes charms or pendants by themselves, and you can see in this case it's just bracelets. You got some stuff that looks like either Coro or Coro-esque in design, but then a variety of other things too. Here's a necklace on the side that's got like nephrite jade, rose quartz, and mother of pearl like abalone on there. Really kind of a cool thing. This got 56 bids. So folks, when you have decent jewelry, lots out, you're going to get a lot of interest because people buy a ton of jewelry on eBay individually, and we're talking costume or full, or fine jewelry as well. So this got $183. There were definitely some gold-filled pieces in here, and I think that's partly why people were interested. And then it's just like this. This is like a gold-filled brooch. It's beautiful. You got kind of like a more coppery color here and more of like a yellow gold color. When I see this in that multi-tone colored metal, especially when the back have rivets and things, I'm pretty confident. And then you can see it says here 1/20th 12K GF, gold filled. And in general, like whenever I'm selling gold-filled stuff, let's say I'll sell a lot of just gold-filled jewelry, I'll always weigh it. That gives buyers a reference. A lot of times I'm getting about $1 per gram or so. So if I have 100 grams of gold-filled jewelry, I may get about $100 for that, give or take. This was a cool piece. I think it was West German or Austrian, kind of in that region was where this was made. Based on some of the other things I've seen, it wasn't marked. It had this really cool, like, you can kind of see sort of a raspberry red, kind of darker color rhinestone in there, probably glass or paste of some kind. You can see the back is quite old as well. They've got this foil coating on the back. So it's not really letting light go through. That's intended to refract a particular color back to your eye because it's not a genuine gemstone that has really good vibrant color in and of itself. They're using a cheaper piece, but definitely kind of old based on the design. And it was cool. I paid $3 for this, in and around a lot of other just kind of your garden variety, cheaper costume jewelry. And I knew that this had more of a value. And so put it up, only got one bid, but I was happy with $20. You know, you spend 2 or 3, you make 20 in a week. That's not, you know, you can't retire on that obviously, but that is the kind of stuff that we do regularly. I might go out in a day sourcing and come back with 25 pieces of jewelry that I spent $2 to $3 on. And if each one of those pieces can sell for $20, then, you know, you've done a decent job. Here is a pendant necklace that it's kind of a cameo, but kind of not. It looks like it's the profile of either like a Greek or a Roman, you know, kind of bust head there, with a little red kind of rhinestone at the bottom. Robert Rose is the designer of this, and whenever I come across pieces that are marked with designers of names that I'm not familiar with, maybe I've never heard of them before, or I don't come across them that often, if it's, you know, $5 or less, I'll buy it without even researching it, to be honest with you, because the investment's small. And also I know from experience that people, like, you know, jewelry that has maker's marks on it that are not the most common are going to sell, because there is a market for whatever that brand is. I can almost sell anything, branded or not, for $5. And so if the worst is that it eventually comes back to where I'm only making my money back on that, like, it's not a big risk to do that. This was a pair of earrings. This was the second time I sold them. The first time I sold them, I reached out to them. I said, hey, I just want you to know what you're getting here. This is a pair of gold tone earrings. Yes, at the top right here, it's marked 14K, but it has been tested. It is not 14 karat solid gold. It's probably silver with a gold, like a very thin gold coating on the outside of it, or it has no gold at all. I reached out, I told the person, and they said, oh yeah, sorry, I wanna cancel that order. And I thought, okay, that's what I was expecting, because it sold within 20 minutes of being listed. The second time I sold it, I did the same thing. I reached out to them. I said, before I send this, I want you to know what you're getting. And they said, yes, please send it. So I sent it. You know, it sold on, let's see, when did it sell on? Well, it says that the delivery was estimated to be May 27th, but I shipped this immediately. This has been a couple of weeks ago, I believe. And so I haven't heard from them, so I'm hoping that means they're going to keep it. I love pocket watches. Watches and pocket watches. I just think that they're super fascinating. I buy watches from like the 50s and 60s all the time, particularly women's watches. A lot of times they're smaller. They'll sometimes have diamonds in them, sometimes other gemstones, and a lot of times they're gold filled, or it'll say rolled gold on the back of it, which just means that the bezel and couple of components will have gold content in them. And so you've got two different buyer bases. You've got the people who collect watches and those who repair watches as one kind of subset of people who want to buy, but then you also have people who buy them just for the scrap gold. And so you've got a couple of different markets there that you can work within. This was a really neat, it wasn't like the most, you know, rare or impressive watch. It's an Elgin watch. Elgin's a brand that everyone who knows about pocket watches would be familiar with. The thing that was cool about this one was that it had this really beautiful chain and this awesome fob. And the fob has kind of a spot where you can put in someone's picture. It has a really cool design there. And, you know, open up the back. It has a pretty nice movement. I don't remember what the actual like type was, but it says warranted, and that means that it's gold filled. It's not solid gold. Warranted, and a lot of times it'll have a year or like a number of years, like warranted 10 years, 20 years. And that year, I believe, unless somebody wants to correct me, is that it's indicating generally how long you could use that before the gold content on the outside would wear off. Meaning, okay, this one has 10, is it 10 years warranted, and this one's 20. Well, this one that's 20, you should be able to wear for 20 years before the gold wears off and you notice it, rather than the 10 would only last about 10 years. I mean, that's kind of how it goes, meaning the 20 has more gold filling on it than the 10 year does. And then the jewels, generally speaking, the better movements and the movements that keep better time will have more jewels. So something that's like 7 jewels is not that impressive of a timepiece. It's not as maybe there's not as much going on in the making of it. Whereas something with like 21 jewels or 23 jewels or 27 jewels, now you're talking about like a really nice, it will keep really good time. A lot of effort was put into it. Timepiece. And you can check me on that. If you were to go and look up now, cases for pocket watches and the movements themselves are kind of, are different things. So you'll have the same movement that you could find with a variety of different cases. But generally speaking, the higher the quality of the movement itself, and oftentimes this corresponds to the jewels, then the more likely it's going to be put into a case that might be made of like silver or solid gold. You don't usually see kind of not that impressive 7 jewel pocket watches in like an 18 karat solid gold case, for example. But this one I bought for, what did I buy this for? I think I bought this for about $60. Is that right? Yeah, I think it was $60. And I sold it for $199. It took me a couple of weeks because I was actually trying to sell it for more than that, and I just kept lowering it until I got a buyer. This next set here, I was really happy. I paid $3 for. This was a really nice day. I did very well sourcing this day, but I paid $3 for this pair of jewelry, or this pair of earrings here. This, it's funny. I'm going to try to pronounce it again. Givenchy? The reason I say that is people get on all the time to correct my brother Rusty on the other channel, on the Rusty the Reseller channel, and we get probably 8 or 10 different types of pronunciations. People go, oh, it's like this, and the next person will say it's like that, and it's different. So I don't know how to pronounce it. It doesn't matter. I know how to spell it, and I know what it is when I see it. So I knew that $3 was a good investment. It took me about 2 weeks. I originally had it for $250. I brought it down, and it sold for $199. So just this brand, however you want to pronounce it, is quite sought after and brings really good money. So I also heavily recommend you start going, if you haven't already, regularly to consignment, like consignment, women's consignment shops, women's or men's, because a lot of times you can find good jewelry there. And the good thing about that is that's not one of the frequent spots that other pickers or resellers go to. They're going to yard sales, flea markets, and thrift stores most of the time, or auctions like estate sales, but not as much consignment shops. So I wouldn't say that's like my big secret, and I'm not the first to come up with that, but I notice, at least in my area, I don't come across the pickers that I see regularly at the other places at the consignment shops, which is great because that's less competition, right? This is a butterscotch. We call it butterscotch just because of the color. Essentially, you could say an egg yolk. This kind of like more opaque yellow down here looks like egg yolk. This is kind of more butterscotchy. There's lots of terms that people use when they're describing amber. They'll say honey, or they'll say root beer, or they'll say, egg yolk. It's just a way of describing it, kind of indicates, what we're talking about. Somebody had turned this into, it looked like a handmade piece. They just got these various little specimens. Some of these were kind of carved into similar size beads, but the rest of them are just sort of free form, and they made it into a brooch. This is another one of those $2 purchases at a thrift store. They thought it was regular plastic. It turned out to be actual amber, and amber can hold some really good values, particularly certain colors like a deep red color beaded amber necklaces can really sell for lots of money, and I mean into the thousands. So look up amber necklace and go to in eBay and go to highest the ones that have sold for the most amount of money in the last 90 days, and you will find some selling for over the thousands. And I love coral and I love amber because those are two natural substances that were used in vintage and antique jewelry, which it's very difficult for the average person in, like, say, these stores to know if it's plastic. They just assume that it's plastic and that it is made to look like something else. But I find angel skin coral, that's like a pink coral, necklaces and jewelry, brooches, earrings, all the time because they don't know what they are. So familiarize yourself with those. Here was another one of these. You can see how I framed it and sort of displayed it exactly the same way. I put the drawers in, and look at all this jewelry, and it's kind of enticing. You see that first photo and then you think, ooh, what's in there? I need to click in and I need to go through all these photos because what is hiding in here that I might want? Okay, here it is. And then I give some close-up ones. This particular lot, again, had really cool stuff. I had some vintage items and also some antique stuff, like this filigree silver brooches here in the middle, this one right up here that I'm pointing at, and this bar brooch. Those were gold filled. This has faux amber. It's not real amber, but some of these pieces were signed by some really nice makers. Just a variety of pieces. This was real jade, not high quality jade, but it was jade. This was a silver and lapis bracelet here. These were kind of gold plated, and some of these were earrings and bracelets that have lab created sapphires in them. And some neat stuff. A couple of decent watches. They just needed batteries, but they worked. So I was happy to get 275. If I could get 275 every time I do a lot like this, I'd be very happy. In fact, this week, I think I posted no less than a dozen, probably closer to 15 lots just like this. Like I said, 40 pieces, maybe 45 pieces. They came from a gigantic jewelry collection that I bought, and I'm still trying to get through and sell. And this came from that also. I split this up thematically. Sometimes I do that with brooches. Like, here's a bunch of brooches that are cats. Here's a bunch that are, like lizards and insects or whatever. Here's one that's all butterflies. And somebody like this butterfly, and people like butterflies. I don't know who it is that's wanting these, but some of these were actually older. This has got some kind of paste blue rhinestones in here, but then they were hand painted, as you can see. You can see the metal on the edge. It's kind of starting to wear off, unfortunately, but they had hand painted that. Here's something that's kind of mirroring like mother of pearl. So some interesting pieces, $33. Let's see, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. So it's, maybe $3 a piece. So in this particular instance, if I had bought these all for $3 a piece and sold them for this, I would not have made a lot of money. But the reason I'm able to make this money is because I bought a giant lot for a certain amount, and my cost per piece ended up being less than $1 actually. So I'm making at least $2 per piece here whenever they sell for this amount. This is another thematic brooch lot here, and this was all, like I said, cats. I've just put designer cats, but you had a lot of these featured rhinestones, a lot of times the green for their eyes, so that gold tone flashing with either the clear crystal or the green eyes made for a interesting look. These also, a couple of these long ones were articulating, meaning the body was connected almost like in different joints, like a chain. On the back, or on the top rather, it looks like this large, like leopard or panther or something, but on the bottom you can see that it's really just links, and it's cool. These are brooches, they're pins. This one, I guess they both had 2 separate pins on the back, so that you could put them on, say, like a scarf or a coat or something. $42, 15 bids for those. Here's another one of, I just put animals, designer animals. And you can see we got a dog, has like an articulating tail. A lot of, fake pearls in here, but we got monkeys and frogs and whales and stuff. Some of you are probably thinking, people want that? Like, that's, yeah. I could have sold these all individually if I wanted to take the time. For me, it's about, at what point is there a diminishing returns here? Because if I spend the amount of time it takes me to do however many pieces are here, 15 or 16 individual lots, is the amount of time I spend on that going to be worth the money that I would make on that versus putting this in a lot? And sometimes it makes more sense if I believe I'm going to make enough to put in the time, and other times my time is more important to me, so I just want to get in a lot and move on. Also, I'm kind of in a unique situation because I've bought a couple of very large lots. I bought out an entire room, almost floor to ceiling, of items from a thrift store end of last year. And then in February of this year, I bought an entire antique store inventory and their backup inventory. And then I also bought a jewelry collection. And so what I essentially did was, in a couple of big purchases, I bought enough inventory that I wouldn't have to source any more this year or even next year. I could work until the end of next year with what I have. And those of you who don't know my backstory, I basically got into this world full time because of what happened in 2020, and not without knowing what the future will hold. I've made some moves so that if something ever happens again while I'm doing this full time that would restrict my ability to get out, I could hole up where I operate out of. And not have to go into any other area or purchase any more items. I would have enough stuff to list. And so I did that just sort of for a little bit of peace of mind. It also saves me all those trips and all the gas throughout the whole year sourcing. So I can also, there's some savings there. But anyhow, I have enough stuff that I can list a thing. I don't need to wait for the optimal amount of money on each thing because I have so many things waiting to be listed. I just need to get these out and get them sold. This right here is an old stick pin. It is old, but it's not terribly old. It's also not like super great quality, I wouldn't say. It's not made of silver or gold. These are just, hard plastic rhinestones. But I got $14 off of this anyway. Stick pins, particularly if they're made of like silver or gold, or they have some precious gemstones like pearls or coral or diamonds, they can sell for hundreds of dollars. This is a brand also to keep a lookout for if you aren't familiar. I think it's Hattie Carnegie. So this is just a set of earrings. They're round. They've got these gemstones, and you can even see the coloration on them is not fantastic. There's some of them are discolored a little bit to the green. You can even see a little bit of green there because this is just a common alloy. These might be gold plated, but it doesn't indicate that. It does say Carnegie on the back. $10. I mean, those are the kinds of sales I know I'm going to get when I buy a brand like that. I'll pay $2 or $3. I'm like, low end, I'm going to sell this for $10. Could be $20 or more. This one actually surprised me because I have not come across these a lot. They're called, the brand was Jewelorama, but they have this almost like holographic kind of like, rainbow color look when you look from one side to the other. And, yeah, I mean, look at this. It's kind of cool looking for sure. I don't know who's wanting to wear that or if they're just collecting this particular thing, but you can see the brand was underneath the pin there. Jewelorama. I thought I might get 10 or 15 bucks, and this sold within about 3 hours for exactly what I asked, $25. They didn't ask me to reduce it or anything, so I was pretty happy about that. Okay, so this lot, I kind of mix and matched from various things I'd purchased and picked up at yard sales here or there. I can get watches like this for anywhere from $1 to $5. And a lot of times people don't realize that some of these watches from like the 40s, 50s, and 60s are what they call automatic watches, meaning when you pull the little the crown out, and you would adjust it, say the time, or if there's a date, you would adjust the date. There are a couple of different levels you can pull out, and each level, when you twisted it, it functions in a different way. One level will change the date. Another level pulled out a little bit further might change the time. But when it's pushed all the way in, and if you were to wind it, what you're actually doing is winding up the movement. It's got springs and it's set up to operate on a certain amount of time. So you wind it up at the beginning of the day, you put it on, you don't need a battery. And a lot of people don't realize that it doesn't work, and they just assume that the battery is dead and they don't know how to work it or how to take it off, so they just sell it for $2 or $3. Even some nice brands, some of these like really good, like, I've come across Omega watches, but Omegas and Wittenauers and Bellrus and Walthams and Elgins, and these watches that were popular, they may even have gold content or silver content in them. So if you ever find a watch like this, you should look it up, use Google Lens or something. It might tell you it's an automatic. You should test it out, because it might be in perfectly good condition. Maybe you just have to change. Also, a lot of these came with like old leather wristbands, and those things deteriorate over time. So if they break, a person doesn't want to go to the hassle of going. It's like an old style. They don't want to wear it, so they just sell it for basically nothing. These were a couple of interesting bangle bracelets. They weren't made of silver. They weren't silver, but they weren't magnetic either. So some sort of alloy. This was kind of like a pendant watch. Now these were sterling silver, and those were like crystal gemstones. This was a Monet brand bangle. You could barely see it on the inside. $25. In this case, these watches actually didn't work. And had pretty severe damage, and so I just threw this in to kind of sweeten the deal on the lot as a whole. This was a really nice lot of jewelry, and you can even see by the price that I got for it that people were interested in. 33 bids, $135. It could have even gone more than this. It's just depending on if you find the right buyer during that particular auction cycle. So if you're going to do an auction 7 or 10 days, you know, you're just hoping that the ideal buyer is going to be checking in that week, and you can't always know. And so people ask me all the time, and ask Rusty all the time, like, what's better? Is it better to do auctions or buy it now? Or, you know, when do you start the auction? When should it end? Well, those are all great questions, and there is no like one definitive right answer. I tell people what I do that works for me. Often the variables I'm using to determine how I'm going to price something or when I'm listed has more to do with my personal needs and less to do with the items themselves. So do I need the money fast? Did I just buy a lot and I'm trying to get my investment back? Or am I going to sit on it for a while? So I might price it high and do a buy it now and wait for somebody to send me an offer or send people offers. Or is it something I know will sell fast, like gold, and I know I'm going to get barely under spot, or at least spot, if not more, for it, and I want to move it, and I'll put it on a 7-day auction. So this is a cool lot. We have like a cross here, a pendant necklace. We've got some of these really nice gemstone or rhinestone. This was, I believe, a Trifari necklace. We have got a couple of cool earrings here that are made to look like little honeybees. This is a brooch with a type of frosted glass that they call camphor, C-A-M-P-H-O-R, and I've come across that only a couple of times in the last year. One was actually a gold ring with that glass, and then a diamond set in the center of it, and then this particular brooch, which was not made out of gold, but had an attractive look nonetheless. Coro, and you can see the rivets back here. It will aid you in dating a piece like this. And, you know, there are books, folks, out there on costume jewelry and fine jewelry, of collectability, of brands to look for, what those brands look like. For Coro, for example, like through different eras, the designs changed, the materials changed, even the script on the word Coro changes at different stages of the life of the company. And so if you familiarize yourself with the cursive one, then you know that came from this particular decade or two, and that can help you. I don't have any specific recommendations on the best books right now. I'll go back and look at some of the ones I have. I think some of the ones I have are a little bit older. It doesn't mean that they're incorrect, but if you do any of this type of work, you know that things change, and they can change rapidly. So you need to be kind of, I like to see the books, but I also really keep my fingers on the pulse of what things are selling for on eBay, because to me, in real time, that gives me about the best indication of what the demand for a particular thing, or what the the base of collectors is who are buying on this particular platform. But there are also other platforms, Etsy, Mercari, and all these other ones. I'm not going to tell you what I think about them, but they are out there. This watch I actually sold twice. I sold once, and the person got it and wanted to return it. They just said that it wasn't what they thought it was going to be. And that happens sometimes. It's not a big deal. I actually sold it for a little bit more the first time, maybe $60 some, and this time I actually accepted an offer for $45. This came in with a bunch of other jewelry and stuff, so I didn't buy this individually. I wouldn't have spent more than $3 or $5 on it, but it was in its original box, and it had, obviously this is Daffy, or Donald Duck rather, and he's, his arms kind of rotate around. They make ones like this too with Mickey and Minnie. You can even see down here there's the chronograph part at the bottom, but the hand is not on that. So it is an original condition, but it has an original box. It's not really been used a whole lot. People collect that, I guess. It's Disney stuff, and so there's a big collector base for Disney. Then we've got this interesting little it's a brooch. I put Art Nouveau is kind of like a style on here, but you can see it's got a lot of deterioration. There's like the green all around the metal here that's coming through that that plating all around here. The corrosion's pretty rough, pretty bad, but somebody still wanted this. This was, it says original by Robert, so the brand was well, original by Robert is what I put on there. I guess that there's a big collector base for this, because even in the condition that it's in, it's still sold for $24.50. It's pretty awesome. I paid $2 for it, so that was a good amount of money I got back. This also, these are fairly common. These carved little figurines, you can find tons of them on eBay, varying conditions, varying colors. Some say that they're jade, others that say that they're just like a hard stone, soapstone, something like that. But this was just sort of like a carved pendant. I have had it for a long time. It didn't sell. Had it with lots. Those lots didn't sell. So finally put it up, and somebody wanted it. $20. This was, again, just a $2 purchase. Now this one is really cool. Really bizarre kind of color contrast, reds and black, and then just it's not silver, it's not gold, just a few rhinestones, some blue. We used probably the word, you could use, intense, you could use chunky. People like to say the word, the descriptor brutalist, modern, however you want to call it. But this, I guess, Celro Cellini. Somebody got on, I think, on the Rusty side and mentioned that they thought this might be a particular brand or whatever, but threw it up here. Once we adjusted the title and put that name in here, boom, it sold. $175. I paid $10 for this set, which was a necklace and a bracelet. Turned that into $175, so that was awesome. Another set here with the brooches. We've got ballerinas this time, and I had found in doing some searching that several lots of ballerina or themed costume jewelry had been selling for gobs of money, hundreds of dollars. And then look at this: 2, 4, 6, 8 pieces sold for $75. It's about $5 a piece. Again, we're about $1, maybe a little slightly less than that in per piece if you take the amount that we paid for the whole everything that this came in. And so it was nice, just an easy, it's like less than $4, $3.75 to $4.14 is about what I end up paying, because I buy my postage through eBay, so it's discounted, and very easy to package, takes almost no time at all. And so I guess the last one here, I guess it was up a little bit, is this beautiful lot, $200. And again, this could have maybe sold slightly less, slightly more, depending on when. I don't know why the camera is having such a hard time focusing right here, but anyways, really nice. You can see like just beautiful rhinestone. The larger the pieces, the more colorful, the more complex the design. Those are all things that translate to quicker sales and higher dollar amounts. I'm not saying that ones that are just plain and boring looking don't sell, because sometimes they do, certain brands. But if you look at costume jewelry names, okay, like Trifari or Carnegie or Haskell or some of these other boutique ones, and you look up the ones that sold for the most money, you're going to find that it's usually really large, ornate necklaces or bracelets or sets of earrings, bracelets, brooches, necklaces, but they typically have very large, very colorful, very complex designs. This is the back of all of them. You can see several of these have that rivet construction in the back, which indicates that it's most likely a little bit of an older vintage piece. But $200, just one bid, but it was pretty good to get that. We had so many of them that were listing, so if every time you do a lot like this, you're getting $150 to $200 off of this costume jewelry. That's not too bad, provided you got it at a good cost. Well, I hope this helps, guys. These are the kinds of things we're selling. I didn't have a whole lot of like high dollar value fine jewelry to show you this time, but this is really just within the last month. We've got some stuff we've just listed this week, and we've got some really nice stuff coming up really soon. Some Victorian era stuff, some gold and gold filled items, seed pearls and stuff like that. So you can see, the eBay store here is called Modern Day Merchant. That's the one I'm showing you out of today, but we've got a couple of others. One's called Estate Treasure, I think, Estate Treasure, and then the Rusty Bargain Warehouse is the other one that's connected to us from the Rusty side. But anyhow, if you haven't checked out Rusty the Reseller YouTube channel, do that. We've got a whole like a playlist of like just tons of jewelry oriented videos where we inspect things, tell you values, and talk about that even more. So you can check that out. We'll have a link at the end of this video to show you. So if you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. We're going to have a new video every week, at least one new video, sometimes two, and the Rusty channel is no different. So thanks for watching, folks. I hope that this helped you a little bit. Maybe you'll know a few things to look for, understand some of the values today. Take care.